First of all, thank you for taking the time to be here today. I know you have to take like half an hour, 45 minutes perhaps of your time to be here. And when I posted the event earlier this week, I wasn't entirely sure about the interest or that this would spark. I wasn't entirely sure, but last time I checked this morning, it was over 300 people that were interested or going. And this kind of warmed my heart. So I'm very happy that everyone is here. So I hope I won't be boring you. It's going to take more or less half an hour, and I'm going to tell a story today. It's an event that happened to me 10 years ago in South Africa. It's an event that changed my life forever. It almost destroyed me as well. Then it transformed me, and it made me into the person who I am today. This is my full story. It's a story of pain, a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of despair, frustration, self-destruction as well. But it's also a story of joy, a story of gratitude, a story of compassion, a story of understanding, a story of inspiration, and a story of acceptance. It's basically how I've been able to transform in a new version of me, and how I am still transforming in that new version of me. So let me take you back to 2009, where it all started in South Africa. At the time I was working for an international communication agency, and I was doing socio-economic projects on countries worldwide. I had been traveling for almost a decade, and I was based in South Africa in 2009, in Johannesburg, with my team. And we were doing very well. We were 7-8 months into the project, and our job was to meet with the leaders of the country, economic leaders, social leaders, political leaders, and cultural leaders. Interview them and then use those comments for an economic report to attract investment. That's more or less what we were doing. And I remember being 6-7 months into the project. I was in Cape Town with Ideal, my right hand, and we had just interviewed the general manager of the one and only hotel. And I remember that very clearly, because of that hotel there are only a very few in the world. It's a very exclusive place. And the general manager had allowed us to stay a couple of days for free at his premises. And there was also this restaurant, Nobu. It's a Japanese restaurant, also quite exclusive. And I remember sitting there that evening after the interview with my right-hand Ideal. And I felt tired. I felt a bit off. And our job was very stressful. We traveled all the time. Sometimes there was lack of sleep. It was basically working round the clock. That was our work, was our life. That's basically what it was. I felt in my groin a swollen gland. Now, swollen glands for me are not new. It's my body. It's one of the ways that my body is telling me that I'm going in overdrive or doing stuff that is a bit too much. So I have to slow down. So I told the deal, like, look, I'm going to call it an early night. I'm going to go to my room, and I have to slow down. I'm going to sleep on it, and hopefully tomorrow I'm better. But the next day I woke up and I didn't get better. I was worse. And the days progressed, and instead of getting better, I got worse and worse and worse. And I started developing a fever. And I thought, okay, my body, I'm sick, I really need to slow down and take a week off. And at some point, I told Ideal to go back to Johannesburg, to join Robert, my other colleague in Johannesburg, because there was a lot of work to do. And I told her that I was going to stay behind because I wanted to recover really. I was really in a bad shape. But as the days went on, it got worse and worse and worse. And at some point, the manager of the hotel told me, look, we're fully booked, you have to go. And then I took the decision whether I asked myself, do I fly back to Johannesburg or do I stay in Cape Town? And I decided, against better judgment probably, to fly to Johannesburg. But still, up until today, I consider this the worst flight of my life. I mean, there's two bad flights. I'll tell you about another flight later. But this was really a very bad flight because my fever was so high that I was shaking all over the entire flight. My entire body was shaking of the fever, and I felt very, very weak. I had also developed like dots over my face and over my body, and I didn't really know what was going on. I was a bit worried as well. But then I arrived in Johannesburg, and my driver Clemens picked me up, and he immediately noticed that something was off, and he said, you don't look good at all. We have to take you to the hospital. And I told Clemens, please take me home. Take me home. I'll see you tomorrow. Let me have another night to sleep on it. And he took me home. And the next morning, my team, Robert and Idil, they found me in bed, and I was sweating profusely. I was I was really in a bad shape, and they immediately took me to the hospital. Now, when I arrived at the hospital, I was brought to emergencies, and the doctors immediately took some tests. And after a couple of hours, they came back to me and they said that I had no white blood cells left. So basically, my body was without an immune system. My defenses were completely out, and the doctor said that he had rarely seen anything like this. And he said, yeah, you have to stay. It was obvious I had to stay, right? And then I was put into a little room, and I was there for almost 10 days in quarantine. So basically what happened is they started doing all these tests. Started doing malaria tests, tuberculosis, hepatitis, HIV, a lot of different tests. And all these tests came out negative. And I thought, okay, I probably developed some sort of tropical disease. I'm going to have to wait and see what the doctors come up with. So I was brought to this room, and I was in quarantine. And I remember the doctors, they came in with these white suits, like astronauts, really. I remember that very clearly. It was like, I felt like in a movie of Steven Spielberg or E.T., what these guys come in. And I was very, very weak. My entire face, my entire body was full of red dots, this rash. Because of no immune system, I was so weak, and I didn't realize at the time, but the reason why I was in quarantine is because I could have died. I could have died at the time from any other disease that I would have caught, even from a cold, because my body was unable to defend itself. And there I am in this little room, thinking, what is going on, right? Now the doctors, they kept coming every day. They were very nice to me, and there was this particular doctor, and he came in every single day to the room. And all of a sudden, I think the fourth or the fifth day, this doctor stops coming into the room. And I'm like, okay, and I still very weak. I mean, I even fell a couple of times out of bed. It was horrible. And the doctor stops coming. The sixth day, no doctor, just nurses. The seventh day, also nurses. The eighth, I think the eighth or the ninth day, there's this other doctor that comes in, a woman. And she comes into the room, and she says, Mr. Jonathan. I say, yes. She says, I have some news for you, but you're not going to like it. I said, what is it? So you have HIV. And I say, what? And I don't know what I did, but I think I blanked out. I panicked. I started breathing heavily. I started crying. This is that news. I mean, still when I think about it, that news of receiving, the reality that you have HIV. Like, I thought literally that my life was over. Like, my life, I was walking here, I was very successful in my job, and everything in a split second changed, like that. And my whole life, like a bubble, bursted, completely. Now, there is something else that you need to know. I haven't told this, but it's a very important part of this story. I had a girlfriend at the time. She was from Spain, from Barcelona, and she was living in Ibiza. Her name is Amanda. And Amanda had been my best friend for 7-8 years, I think. Really my best friend. We had a relationship, a short one, 7 years earlier, and then we became really best friends. And then, in 2008 or 2007, we decided to give it a shot and to really get into a relationship together. But I was doing this job, and I was traveling so much. I was traveling 10, 11 months of the year, and when I could, I traveled back to Europe. But it was very complicated. But because we were very best friends, we thought, this may work. And when I got back from Istanbul, where I had been in 2008 for a year, and they offered me South Africa as a country, I thought, I spoke to her and I said, Amanda, let me do this project because I'm making a lot of money, I can save up. And when I come back, let's go on a trip together, let's do stuff and figure it out what we want to do. And we kind of agreed on that, and I left to South Africa. But obviously, I was there for 8 or 9 months. And when you're in a country like working as hard as I do, it's not an excuse for anything, but you kind of you know, you don't see each other. I went one time to Spain, a long weekend, and she came to visit me 1 week in South Africa in the span of 8-9 months, which is obviously not a lot. And, you know, there I am in my room, alone, in quarantine, weak, and just received the news I have HIV. So what do? You know, the woman of my life, because I really loved her. She was everything to me. We were going to build our life together. And so what do, right? She knew I was sick. Amanda knew I was sick. And but I couldn't tell her over the phone I had HIV. To me, this is not the type of news you bring over the phone. So I said to myself, I have to travel there. You know, I have to find a way to do that. So I picked up the phone and I called my mother. And my mother obviously went in shock. I think she was at the grocery store or something, and she dropped everything immediately, took a flight to South Africa to be with me and to come and get me. And I remember when she arrived, I was still, you know, I had lost a lot of weight. I had the red dots, you know, my face. I looked really, really horrible. And my mother, when she came, you know, I remember sitting there on the terrace of the hospital outside, and she was so tired, and I saw her face, and then she fell like flat with her face on the table, because I think she wanted to sleep, but she saw me, her son, you know, sick, and well, it's not a nice thing, you know, to have your mother coming to see you when you know, I felt this incredible sensation of disappointment, of guilt, of shame. I was so ashamed. You know. I'm not gonna cry. I told myself not to cry. Okay, so, and I was there, you know, and I was very happy she was there. She was there for me like a mother is supposed to be, right? And then I traveled back to Belgium with my mother, and I recovered. I was put on treatment immediately in South Africa, and I recovered. So, I mean, I'm not going to elaborate on the scientific thing of the HIV virus. This would be for another call. But I was put on treatment, so I recovered after a couple of weeks, and then I had to take a flight to Ibiza, you know, to be with Amanda, to tell her the news. And I told you about the first flight. The one from Cape Town to Johannesburg, I was shaking all over. Well, this is the second flight. This is the horrible flight. Because, you know, how do you bring a news to the woman you love that you cheated on her and that you have HIV? You know, so, but I had to do it because, you know, this is not the way, right? So, I took the flight, and then she picked me up from the airport. And, yeah, we drove into the hills. She was at the house of a friend of hers. I think she was living there or sharing the place. We drove into the hills of Ibiza, and she, you know, it took me a while to get these words out of your mouth. It's not, you know, like when you have this in the beginning. Now it's easy for me. I can talk about it, and I'll tell you more about my story in a minute. But in the beginning, it is such a difficult thing to bring. It is, you know, like you want to say it, but then you don't, and you want to say it, you don't, and like this lasted for a bit with Amanda, and ultimately I told her, like, look, I have HIV, and she took it all right. I think she wasn't like angry. She didn't start to cry. She was okay, like, but I think she went in shock, and I was obviously in shock. We were both in shock, and you know, it's just a weird thing. Now you have to know something else as well. When I was in South Africa, when I was hospitalized, because of the way my body had reacted to the virus, when I came in, I tested negative for HIV. So the test could not detect the virus, meaning that my body was just making the seroconverting. You know, they call it an acute seroconversion, what I had. And so the doctors knew with absolute certainty that I had been infected from the day of my hospitalization 6 weeks in advance. So in that time span, I had contracted the HIV virus. Now, in that 6-week time span, I had been in Spain. I had been in Spain with Amanda. You know, we had spent a long weekend together. I had also had 2 sexual contacts with 2 women in South Africa. So when I was in the hospital, this all went through my head, and I thought, you know, my God, maybe I have infected Amanda, or maybe she's given it to me, or maybe, you know, like this was a whole spinning and I didn't really know what was going on, but I had to tell her. So when I brought her the news in Ibiza, I had to take her to the hospital. She had to go with me to the hospital to get tested. And I can assure you, as a couple, it's not a nice thing to do. Like, this is horrible to do, really. But this is what it was. So we had to do that. And you know, when we talked a little bit, but there was not a lot of room. I was thinking about myself. I think she was thinking about herself. She was really worried, obviously, whether she was going to be infected with HIV or not. It was this whole thing, right? And the third day that I was in Ibiza, we got into a fight. We got into a discussion, like a really heated discussion. There was no physical aggression or anything like that, but you know, there was shouting and there was a moment of complete hysteria, right? And I left. You know, I took my trolley and I said, okay, I'm out of here. And the thing is, what I told Amanda, which instigated the discussion, I said, if you're thinking about leaving me, I want you to leave me now and not in 6 months, because you know I'm hitting rock bottom right now. So I can take it. So, but this was a stupid thing to do. It was the ego talking, right? And I was completely lost in my story, and I wasn't thinking about her. And so I left, and I left to the port of Ibiza through the hills in the middle of the night with my little trolley. I went to the port of Ibiza, you know, stayed up all night, was drinking, and then I left to Belgium, and we never saw each other again for 5 years. 5 years, nothing. No, like there was a bit of communication, but not for a very long time. And I didn't see her until 5 years when I went back to Ibiza and we had breakfast together for 25 minutes. And well, Amanda, I know you're watching, and I know we've spoken about this before. I know we had a chat in Ibiza a couple of years ago. But if you're watching, and I think you are, or you're watching live, I want to tell you that I'm sorry. I want to tell you that I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry for everything that happened. And for everything that I put you through. Lo siento muchísimo. Lo siento. Siento no haber sido lo suficientemente fuerte para quedarme alejado de otras mujeres. Lo siento. Siento haberte engañado. Sorry that I cheated on you guys. I'm so sorry. Lo siento haberme contagiado con el VIH también y casi haberte infectado a ti. Solo puedo esperar que tú me perdones, que me hayas perdonado, no lo sé. Todavía, I just can tell you that I'm good, I'm fine, I'm free, I'm in peace with myself. But I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry, you know, and I didn't realize at the time what you were going through. I was in so much pain, and you know, I felt so ashamed, and I felt so guilty, and so, well, you know, a million emotions, right? So, but the thing is, when I left Ibiza, Amanda, and I want you to know this, how I felt, you know. We didn't see each other for 5 years, but we had been best friends for 10 years, for almost 10 years. So I felt this enormous feeling of rejection, you know. I felt rejected by you because of HIV. I know now that's not entirely the case. I say this without judgment, you know. I say this without judgment. I don't want to judge. There is no, you know, there's compassion and understanding for who you are really. But I felt rejected. I felt really rejected, and it's been 10 years since I have been in a serious relationship. Probably because I've closed down completely. I've not been able to open up. I mean, I'm much better, obviously, but I'm still not in a relationship. But I just want to tell you that this is how I felt. So what happened is, when I got back to Belgium, everything started to go downhill with me. I started to use drugs, started to use alcohol. It's not that I had been sober, you know, like I had used drugs before in my life, but it was just the amount and the frequency of my drug abuse started increasing, like, substantially. And I'm just going to drink a little bit. How is this going? 100 people watching, well. All right. So everything started going downhill with me. I started using cocaine, alcohol, like full out. And I disappeared in a black hole. I disappeared in I don't know where I went, but I went totally away from myself. I don't know. I wasn't capable to live with my situation, with my new reality, and I thought somehow by using drugs and drinking alcohol that this whole thing was going to disappear miraculously, which obviously doesn't do, you know. But that whole roller coaster, that whole like period lasted for 8 long years. You know, I was closed up. There was a lot of tensions in my family. I mean, I don't have children or anything like that, but my brothers and sisters. You know, I was destroying myself. I was on a path of total self-destruction until 2017, the 30th of March 2017. And the 30th of March 2017 is important for me because my best friend passed away that day. My best friend, he had been in a wheelchair for almost 20 years. He had fallen off the stairs 20 years earlier and he broke his neck. He had been in a wheelchair and he was paraplegic. He was, you know, like from the chest down, he couldn't move and he could just move his arms. And he had a dog, you know, he was in his house. He lived independently with his dog, and then the nurses came in the morning, all like that. And then I remember in 2016 in December, I was in Bali. Bali is one of the places where I've been spending a lot of time over the years. And I was in Bali and I got a phone call from his sister because his parents had already deceased. And his sister called me and he said, you know, they found Luce, the name of my friend. They found him and you know, they don't know what happened. The nurses found him and he's in the hospital and he's lost his speech and he's really bad. You know, I just want to tell you that. So what I did is I took a flight immediately to Belgium from Bali and I spent the last 4 or 5 months with him in the hospital. Almost every day I was there. And he indeed had lost his speech and we had to communicate by blinking. You know, 1 blink was yes, 2 blinks was no. That's how he communicated. And you know, there was very few visits. I think people couldn't handle really like a person like that because it was horrible. And at some point it became clear that he was going to live like that for the rest of his life. He was not going to recover. And he asked to end his life. He asked to end his life and he asked me to be there. And I agreed. But I mean, you can't really prepare for something like that. I mean, losing someone is already is heavy, but you know, when you look someone into the eyes, he kissed me on my lips before receiving the lethal injection. That look, you know, that the depths of the universe somehow, I don't know what I saw, but then, you know, his lips on mine, and then 20 seconds later he was gone. And yeah, a very deep impact, but I think the day itself was fine. But then I went back to his house. I slept in his bed that same night. It was not a good idea, obviously. I started drinking again. And I disappeared again in a black hole for a month. I was like on a complete bender. I lost everything because it was one of my milestones in my life had disappeared. And I hadn't recovered from my HIV whole thing. I was still in that, you know, that mode of victimhood, you know. I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's really what it is. So yeah, I disappeared in the black hole, and then at the end of June 2017, I received a phone call from 2 sisters, a very good friend of mine, Virginia and Esther Cortavitarte, they're from Spain. And they called me and they asked me, you know, we're going to go walking we're going to do a part of Santiago de Compostela route. And if you want, you know, join us. And I said, yeah, fuck this, you know, I'm sorry my language. But I gotta get out of here. So I left. I took my boots, a little backpack. I left to Spain, and I started walking. And initially I was supposed to walk only for 3 days, but those 3 days became 8 days. And I went in without training, you know. And Virginia and Eric, the guy from Italy with whom I ended the walk, they were quite well-trained walkers. And I remember the 5th or the 6th day, I was in so much pain. My legs, my feet. I mean, I run a marathon and I know what pain is when you run a marathon, but this was nothing compared to that. The pain was excruciating. And I remember walking, we were lost. We had walked over 40 kilometers, I mean, close to 50. And I remember that in the mountains I was walking, and all of a sudden, so I don't know where it came from, but something fell off me, and I started crying. I started crying like unstoppable tears for hours, really. And I realized two things. Number one, I realized that if I wasn't going to change, I was going to die. You know, it came so clear. It was really that bad. And the second thing that I realized is I had never taken responsibility for my own life, never taken responsibility for my own actions. And I stood there. I mean, I was walking, but I stood still, and I was, you know, these tears were coming down my face, and I saw my life, and in a split second, everything was clear, you know. And I said, I need to start doing things differently, you know. This is not working any longer. So I took a decision that day to change. And but the thing is, one thing is to take a decision to change, but another thing is, how do you change? You know, how are you going to do that when you come out of 8 years of, you know, like using drugs, running away from yourself, like blaming the world, all that kind of stuff? How do you do that? So what I did is I went back to Belgium, and I contacted my dad, my mother, who are divorced, and all my brothers and my sisters. I have 4 sisters and 2 brothers, so we're a big family. And I contacted them, and I sat down with them, with all of them separately, and I asked them to forgive me. And I apologized for my behavior, for the way I had been living my life for the last 8 years, you know. And some of them said it was not necessary to ask for forgiveness, and, you know, that was all fine, and, you know, and some said they were really happy. They were like mixed reactions and stuff. The thing is, I asked for forgiveness for me. I mean, for them as well, but for me it was very important. It was a very important first step. I felt I had to do that, to try to then take the next step. And the next step was to forgive all the people that had wronged me. Because, you know, however we look at it in life, you know, we can ask forgiveness and ask people like, look, I've done something stupid or wrong, and you can ask for forgiveness. But it's important also to forgive other people. And it doesn't really matter whether that other person thinks he or she has wronged you. That doesn't matter. If I have the perception that somebody's wronged me, that's my perception, and I need to forgive that person in order to free myself. And that's what I really needed to do. I mean, I thought that Amanda had wronged me because she left me. I thought that my parents had wronged me because my father was, drinking alcohol. He's an alcoholic, recovering alcoholic. He's sober now for 3 years. But, you know, I was angry with my dad. I was angry with my mother because I blamed her for leaving my dad. I was angry with my mother, my brothers and my sisters because of the tensions and because they couldn't keep my status a secret. There was all that stuff going on, right? And I had to go through that to forgive them and then to ultimately forgive myself. And this is really where where my path has gone. So what I did after having that conversation, I started reading books on personal development. I started going to seminars worldwide. I went to the US, to Sweden, to the UK a couple of times, like really working on myself and really learning how to love myself and accept myself. And, you know, it's been a journey, to say the least. It's been a very challenging, difficult, tough journey, but I am free. I am liberated. I have no sense of guilt anymore, no anger, no frustration, nothing of that. It's all been replaced by different feelings. And I am so happy because of that. I am so alive, you know. I'm so alive, and I feel that's the reason why I'm doing this live today, because I want to share that story. I've been able to make it through, you know. And I'd like to say a couple of things about pain, if you allow me, and suffering. It's obviously a personal opinion, but I believe that one of the most important reasons why we suffer and why we go through pain is because we make things about us. We make things about ourselves. We put ourselves at the middle of everything. Me, 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 me. I did that for years, my eternal, never-ending quest for significance. But that's the ego talking. The ego wants us to believe that there is only me, that you and I, we're separated from one another. But guess what? That's an illusion. We are not separated. I am because you are. I am because you are. I am because we are. Actually, I am because we are is the name of a documentary that Madonna did in 2008, if I'm not mistaken, about the horrific AIDS epidemic in Malawi. I mean, I highly recommend you watch that documentary because it gives an insight into the devastating consequences of AIDS and HIV, especially on the African continent. And so when we realize that things are not so much about us, but about something bigger than us, there is no place for the ego in that space. The ego diminishes, you know, and when you realize that our pain, my pain, was not so much my pain alone, it's the pain of hundreds of thousands of millions of people around the world. That's what our pain is. And when you realize that, you know, you understand that it's part of life, that story, right? But what do? We hold on to the pain. We don't want to let go of the pain. We hold on to the pain. The pain becomes an addiction. We get addicted to the pain. And it sounds like a paradox, right? On the one hand, the pain is hurting us. It is killing us inside. It is making us bleed. And the easy thing would be to let go of the pain. But what do? We don't let go of the pain. We hold on to it because the thought of having to change is more difficult and scares us more. So we don't let go of the pain. We keep it inside. And what do? The pain becomes unbearable. And instead of letting it go, we cover it up with other things. And I used to do that for years. You know, drugs, alcohol. For some people it's sex and pornography. For other people it's eating, binge watching, binge gaming, you name it. There's plenty of stuff that we do to cover up our pain. And that's what I used to do for years. But if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. You know, I don't want to take credit for this quote. It's not my quote. It's a quote of Wayne Dyer. And Wayne Dyer is a spiritual leader that I've been following. I read books of him, phenomenal books. And he says that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So that's his quote. I don't take credit for it. But I do take credit for getting it. I get this concept. It was only when I started looking differently at my life that my life started to change. And that has been the absolute greatest gift the universe could ever give me. Ever. And I invite anybody who's watching this, if you're going through struggle, if you're going through pain, if you think there's no light at the end of the tunnel, I'd like you to ask yourself very honestly, is there any way, any possibility that you can look at your life or at your situation from a different angle, from a different perspective? Is there any way that you can change from the inside out? Because that's, in my opinion, the only way that change will last. But it requires something. It requires honesty. It requires a level of honesty with yourself that I believe most people are not willing or not able to display. Honesty with yourself means cutting through the bullshit, stop telling yourself stories, really being honest. I mean, I left the path of pain a long time ago. I mean, a long time, like months, years now, 2 years, probably a little bit long. It's been a struggle, but I've left that path. I'm walking a different path today. I'm walking a path of compassion, walking a path of forgiveness, walking a path of understanding, of joy, of gratitude. I mean, I've been living in a state of gratitude for months. I mean, I have my ups and downs like we all have, but I'm grateful for the enormous gift of life. You know, we don't realize, but every single second we are here on this planet is a gift. It is such a gift. And we focus on our struggles. You know, I'm not saying that you have to diminish your struggles and like, it's not about that. I'm just saying that gratitude and being grateful has helped me through. You know, I sit here in front of you like free, grateful for life, grateful even for, I mean, it's weird to say that I'm grateful to have HIV, but in a way, look at me, like I'm happy, you know. I'm inspired. I'm in spirit. You know, being inspired is being in spirit, but with your true self. And that's something that I wish so much for all of you to have. You know, that's the reason why I've come and do this live. And I want to end this little, thought about suffering and pain with a saying of my most important mentor, who is Jay Shetty. And he said, if you don't let go of your past, it will bleed all over your future. And that for me, it's very profound, but it's the truth. We have to let go. We have to let go in order to heal. But if you don't let go, the burden stays, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And it destroys us. So that's basically what happened. So now that I'm free, now that I can sit here in front of all of you, I want to help others. I want to make my mess my message. I want to be a relief, a beacon of hope, if you will, an inspiration to people living with HIV, to show them that there is a different path. We can be healthy if we take our medicine, but we can also live a happy life. We can be happy. There is no need for anxiety. There is no need for depression. There is no need for guilt. There is no need for shame. There's no need for all of that. We can live happy. So what I've been doing is, I've been working on this campaign. I've been working on a communication campaign about HIV and stigma. And I have a big goal. I want to create global impact with that campaign. It's a big goal, I know. But that's my idea. And I've given this campaign a specific name. I've given this campaign the name Positively Alive. For the very simple reason that I feel positively alive. That's one thing. But second, I want to bring positive, uplifting, empowering messages about HIV and bring the topic out of the zone of taboo where it's been for all too long. Normalize the conversation. I have HIV, but I'm fine with it. And I think everybody should be fine with it. It's a virus. It's nothing more than that. So this campaign has two different objectives. Number one, raising awareness about the topic. Raising awareness, educate, inform, empower, and counter prejudice and ignorance, because a lot of people are still lost in the realms of ignorance. I want to try to counter that with this campaign. Second objective, I want to raise funds. I want to raise funds for two different organizations. Number one is the Winnie Mabasa Foundation in South Africa. The Winnie Mabasa Foundation, I was in South Africa actually last week. I was there for a couple of days and I went to visit the Winnie Mabasa Foundation because I wanted to see with my own eyes what type of work these people are doing on the ground. And Lisa Ashton, she's the CEO of the Winnie Mabasa Foundation, for 15 years has done phenomenal work. It's an orphanage where children live with HIV, so others without HIV, but the entire communities are affected by HIV. So what they are doing is they're not only caring about the children themselves, but they're caring about the entire community, providing workshops, education, what else? Food distribution, medical services. And I've seen with my own eyes the absolute incredible work that all the people that work for the Winnie Mabasa Foundation are doing to help those communities. And another reason why I've decided to work with Lisa and the Winnie Mabasa Foundation, or to support that organization, is because they're being edited financially by an external organization. So, which means to me that every single penny that's going to go into that to the Winnie Mabasa Foundation will be spent to the people that actually need it the most, which is for me very important. I think for anybody who's donating to any initiative, right? That's the first organization. The second organization is the HIV Cure and Research Center of the University of Ghent in Belgium. And I have partnered up with the University of Ghent, specifically with Professor Dr. Linus van der Kerkhoven. And he's become a very good friend actually. We've been working really well together, and I believe very much in the power what his HIV Research Cure and Research Center does. They are looking for a vaccine and a cure for HIV. And maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't, but we have never in history been so close to a vaccine for HIV. Not a cure. A cure is more challenging, but a vaccine. Like a world without HIV where people can be vaccinated. That would be absolutely incredible. And the HIV Cure and Research Center is working with a lot of international agencies around the world, in the US, in Denmark, Australia, obviously within Belgium as well. There's a couple of other countries that they work with. And I want to support that with this campaign as well. So these are the two objectives. There are also a couple of elements to this campaign. Number one is this Facebook Live today. This Facebook Live is the official launch of the Positively Alive project. So this is basically the explanation of the project. After this live, and now during, I think Katie, a very dear friend of mine, she's going to post a link into the comments about a Facebook group. I've set up a dedicated Facebook group. It's called Positively Alive on Facebook. And I would like everybody to join that Facebook group, because this is the place where we are going to centralize our content. We're going to be sharing posts about HIV, about stigma, about medical developments, about certain things that are happening in the field. I'm going to go live a couple of times, but we want as many people into that group as possible. And it's not only a space for people living with HIV, it's also a space for people that are not living with HIV but want to know more about the topic. And it's a space where basically we're gonna talk about HIV, but about other topics, vulnerability, these type of things, right? So that's the Facebook group. So Facebook Live, Facebook group. Number 3 is a podcast. I've been traveling within Belgium. I've been traveling to South Africa. I've been traveling to the US and the UK, and I've been interviewing the leaders in the field of HIV and get their opinion on HIV itself, medical developments, but also stigma. And this is all going to be part of a podcast that I'm going to be launching very soon on all the major platforms in the US. The first podcast is probably going to be launched on the 9th of September, but in the Facebook Live we will be announcing that. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing, we have two campaign phrases that are part of this campaign. Number 1 is say no to HIV stigma. The other one is HIV or not, I will always care about you. And all of our interviewees that we interviewed so far have said these phrases into the camera. And we're going to make a compilation for World AIDS Day, which is the 1st of December. And we're going to launch these phrases in a compilation on social media. That's the idea. So if anybody who's watching this knows of people with large social media followings, especially to young people who are a very vulnerable group in society to contract HIV, please let us know, because we'd like to reach them with this campaign. So that's a little bit about the campaign phrases. Then there is obviously the website, www.positivelyalive.org. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting? Yeah, a very important topic. Obviously, I mentioned I don't have children. I am not married, but I do have a large family, and HIV was the cause of tension for almost a decade in my family. It was a topic of silence, a topic of shame, a topic of, and I take responsibility for that, for the biggest part, because I wasn't allowing anybody within my family to talk about it. And obviously my brothers and sisters had their own story, but I wasn't allowing them to share their story. And I want to talk about HIV and family in this project, and I'm going to involve my family in the campaign. I'm not going to say how or what exactly, but this will follow during the rest of the weeks and months, all building up to World AIDS Day. So that's it, I think, about the campaign. So yeah, that's my story. That is the campaign, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my dream, because I do have a dream. I have a dream about this campaign. I mean, I'm not Martin Luther King. By no means do I want to be Martin Luther King, but I do have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in an unwavering belief that love is the biggest, strongest force in the universe. I have a dream that one day this world will be free of HIV and AIDS. I have a dream that until that day comes, all people living with HIV will be treated the exact same way as people not living with HIV, as human beings, with the same needs, the same desires, the same fears, the same struggles, the same aspirations. I have a dream that until that day comes, the message of you is you, undetectable means untransmittable, meaning that a person living with HIV on treatment with an undetectable viral load cannot, under no condition, transmit that virus. And that every single stakeholder will adopt and endorse that message. I have a dream that until that day comes, the children, the mothers, the fathers of Africa and all other developing countries will have equal access to medicine to treat their HIV condition, and that the pharmaceutical companies will facilitate this access to their best capabilities, putting people first, profits second. I have a dream that one day the LGBT community worldwide will be able to move and walk freely anywhere they feel like, without fear, without having to look over their shoulders because they think they're going to be persecuted, so they can express who they really are, their being and their love for one another. I have a dream that we, you and me, as human beings, will find it as easy in our heart to say, I am sorry. Please forgive me. As we tend to say, I want this, I need this, I deserve this, I'm entitled to this. I have a dream that this project is going to create global impact. A positive vibration so strong that it creates a ripple effect across 5 continents. And that our leaders and policymakers and the national and international donor community put HIV and AIDS back at the top of their agenda so we can once and for all end the HIV and AIDS epidemic. Because I believe we can. And you know what? You know what? I'd love you, all of you, to dream with me. To be part of this dream. Because I believe that together we can. We can end the HIV and AIDS epidemic. But there's one catch. There's one catch. If you're serious about accelerating the research to find a vaccine and a cure for HIV, if you're serious about that, we're going to need money. We're going to need money, lots of it, like astronomical amounts of it. No joke. We're going to need money to do that. So I'm going to ask all of you very kindly, very warmly, very respectively to donate to this campaign and to do so generously. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for me because I am free. I stand here in my vulnerability, exposed, but I'm happy to do so. Do it for the people that have still not found the peace I have found. Do it for them because they're going through depression, through anxiety, have suicidal thoughts that are on the rise. Do it for those people. Do it for the children, the mothers, the fathers of Africa who don't, and other developing countries who don't have access to medicine yet. Do it for them because they need you. They need me. They need us. I am because you are. I am because we are. That's it. That's my message. That's my story. That's my campaign. And this is my dream. And yeah, I hope that I've been able to, I don't know how long I've been going on here. I have no clue. But yeah, I'm happy. There's 100 people watching, so it's amazing, really. I hope I've been able to inspire at least one person in this. I haven't read the comments. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to do that because it was going to distract me from telling the story. And it was, you know, I don't know how long I've been on this, but I hope I've been able to inspire at least one person. You know, if that's the case, I consider this life a success. You know, there's no ego in this campaign. This springs from this place, from my heart. You know, and there's no pressure, no obligation. This has to go in flow with the universe. That is how I see it. And I would like all of you to share it across social media, any way you feel like. Share this message, because it has to go to the right channels. People need to hear this, I believe, because there is light at the end of the tunnel if you want it to. So, and if we allow ourselves to find it, and I want to be a bit of a light to, you know, to other people living with HIV in my situation, right? So that's it. So I'm going to do one more thing before I end this this life. I'm going to sing a song. Yeah, I'm going to sing a song now. First of all, I want you to know that I'm not a singer. And that, yeah, well, you know, my mother's told me when I was 2 that I used to sing these songs. I could like 15 or 20 songs by heart, and even French songs when I was 2 years old. But since then, I haven't sung, and I'm 42. That means 40 years without practice. But the reason why I'm going to sing this song is because I believe that the words in this song are the most powerful words in the universe. I've always known these words. I think everybody knows those words. But I had never really heard them into a song until very recently. I was participating in a sweat lodge, a ceremonial sweat lodge. And there was this lady, this woman, her name is Floortje. And my God, can she sing? She has the voice of an angel. I promise you, she can sing, right? And she sang that song, and it touched me. It really, really touched me. And I asked her, I went up to her after the sweat lodge, and I said, can you please record this for me and send it? Because I want to listen to it. And She said, okay, no problem. So she sent it to me. I've been listening to it over and over and over again. I'm gonna, there's a bit of wind now, and I hope it's not disturbing. I'm gonna sing that song now to you, you know, as part of this Facebook Live. And I want to apologize in advance for not sounding like Freddie Mercury or Eddie Vedder or Johnny Cash, you know, these big great talents. But it's a song for anybody who's going through struggle. It's a song for anybody who's going through pain, who doesn't see light at the end of the tunnel, who thinks that they're stuck forever. It's a song for you and me. It's a song for humanity. So here we go. 1 second. I'm going to sing it without instruments, by the way. Okay. Oponopono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono pono, opono pono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono 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 po, pono pono. Pono 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 po, pono pono, pono pono. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you. Oponopono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono pono. Oponopono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono 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 po, pono pono, pono pono. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you. I love you, I am sorry, please forgive me. I thank you. Dream with me and donate. I see you very soon.